Beijing is not just a dazzling capital, it is a machine that forces people to survive before they ever get to live. These 15 stories pull you out from under the tourist glow and straight into the unwritten rules running everyday life. From Hukou and 996 to two-speed healthcare and the quiet corners women are expected to swallow. You will realize the scariest part is not one big shock, it is how everything gets normalized until everyone shrugs and says, "Everyone is like that." Stay until the end, because once you see these things, you will never look at Beijing the same way again. Number 15. Beijing teaches you how to live without feeling. Smiling out of habit, tired like it's fate. Beijing moves fast and heavy. The strangest part isn't the traffic or the neon downtown. It's how a lot of people slowly pick up an invisible skill, managing emotions the way you manage work. Here, "I'm fine" doesn't mean you feel okay. It means you're still functioning. You still show up on time. You still reply in a normal tone even when you're running on empty inside. In China's urban culture, endurance, holding it in, pushing through, keeping going is often treated like a sign of adulthood. Beijing locals have a joke that lands a little too close to the truth. "I've been so busy today, I didn't even have time to feel sad." It's not pure pessimism. It's a common kind of self-soothing. Handle the tasks first, deal with feelings later. That self-control also ties into the idea of saving face, not showing weakness in public, because people might read it as a lack of grit. If you watch everyday's life closely, you'll notice how many polite smiles show up right on cue, almost like a reflex. At a small restaurant, the staff smiles as they take your order, but their eyes don't linger. On the subway, people stand close enough to share air, yet somehow don't touch each other. That distance creates a weird feeling, surrounded by crowds, but still alone. A lot of young people describe Beijing as a place where everything is running, but I'm standing still on the inside. Locals don't usually call that depression in a clinical sense. They call it tired lay, a long-lasting state that's been normalized to the point it feels like weather. Conversations about burnout often happen half-joking, half-serious, like a pressure valve. Everyone's like that. That line is what makes the story stick. It shows how strong people are at adapting, but it also reveals the cost of adapting. When emotions stay compressed for too long, life can become smooth and efficient, but quietly less happy. What feels most unfamiliar to outsiders is how deep the normalization goes. Beijing doesn't need dramatic scenes to shock you. The shock is in the routine, days that look the same, people training themselves to run like clocks, and sometimes forgetting they ever lived for anything other than not collapsing. Number 14. Hukou is an invisible lock. You can earn money here, but you're not truly from here. If you want to understand Beijing's social structure, don't just look at skyscrapers or salaries. Look at one piece of paperwork that sounds painfully administrative: the Hukou. To outsiders, it can seem like a household registration system, basically residency on paper. But for many people living in Beijing, it's an invisible lock that decides how stable your life can be, where your child can go to school, how healthcare works, what public services you can access, and most importantly, whether you feel like you belong or like you're only renting a place in the city. Historically, the system grew out of population management and the way resources were allocated. As cities expanded, Hukou quietly turned into a soft boundary between insiders and outsiders. You might not see that boundary in everyday conversation, but it becomes obvious when you hit long-term life decisions: enrolling in better schools, housing procedures, benefits tied to social support. Many migrant workers keep the city running, yet still struggle to reach the level of security they can see right in front of them every day. Beijing natives often treat Hukou as a fact of life, not a debate. In their eyes, it's just how the game works. Big cities have limited resources, and those who arrived earlier have the advantage. For people from elsewhere, Hukou carries a psychological weight. It's a reminder that you're living in a layered system where effort alone doesn't always beat your starting point. What's culturally striking is how Hukou shapes urban identity. Beijing isn't only a place on a map, it's a kind of status, almost a qualification. Some people are willing to pay a huge price for that ticket of belonging because it can mean a safer future for their kids and a stronger sense of security. In everyday talk, Hukou is sometimes described like fate, not in a superstitious way, but in the sense that a hard-to-change variable can steer your social destiny. And then there's the silence it creates. People don't say it too directly at dinner parties, but everyone understands. It makes Beijing feel both dazzling and closed off at the same time. You can enter the city, work, date, spend, and look like a resident. But when you try to plant roots for the long run, you realize there's another door quietly locked and very real. Number 13. Pregnant women learn to stay quiet. Good news turns into a career risk. In many East Asian cultures, pregnancy is family good news, something you bless with care, rituals, and a whole set of take-it-easy traditions. In modern Beijing, that meaning still lives strongly at home. But once you step into the workplace, the same good news can start to feel like a risk factor. The dark corner isn't a written rule posted on a wall. It's the mindset of a competitive labor market, productivity, time, and keeping projects moving without interruption. For women in high-pressure environments, the real question isn't only when are you due, but when should you say it? Some choose to be transparent early. Others delay because they're afraid of being pulled off key projects, losing promotion chances, or being looked at with that quiet, pitying gaze. Here, silence becomes a soft survival strategy. Keep your work rhythm normal, prove your value, and hold your ground before your body and maternity leave schedule change the whole picture. Locals often talk about this with brutal practicality. Many women don't call it tragedy, they call it necessary calculation. They talk about preparing, handing over tasks in advance, building up achievements, creating a safety buffer through results. In urban culture, maturity is sometimes measured by how well you can manage everything on your own. Pregnant women get pulled into that standard too. Perform well and don't disrupt the system. There's also the deeper cultural layer of gender roles. Even when families help, the expectation of childcare still falls heavily on women. In a city where time is a kind of currency, stepping away from the machine for a few months can make people feel like they're falling behind. The most memorable part is the contradiction. Society needs the next generation. Families want children and grandchildren, yet the workplace runs on logic that doesn't wait for anyone. Number 12. Women over 30 become a social equation. Every meeting feels like a soft trial. In Beijing, the idea of being on time shows up in family conversations not as a threat, but like a ticking clock in the background. Once women pass 30, many say social life shifts almost automatically. Questions about work turn into questions about marriage. Conversations about hobbies slide into conversations about having kids. The shock isn't a single dramatic event. It's the feeling of being watched like a problem that needs solving. The cultural backdrop ties to traditional family thinking. Marriage is seen as a foundation of stability and a piece of family honor. In modern everyday culture, plenty of people still believe that having a family is a marker of adulthood. Urbanization has expanded personal freedom and given women more choices, but it also thickens expectations because every choice gets judged through a right versus wrong lens. Locals tend to see this in two streams. One stream frames it as genuine concern. They're afraid their daughter will suffer, afraid that too late means too hard. The other stream, especially among younger people, calls it what it is: social pressure. Many women describe family gatherings as a mild interrogation. How much do you make? Where do you live? Do you have a boyfriend? When are you getting married? No one yells, but the repetition creates a soft trial, where the person being questioned ends up defending herself with reasons and timelines. What makes it feel different is how public it becomes in everyday life. Pressure doesn't only come from family, it's in the environment. Friends getting married one by one, co-workers talking about children, dating apps quietly favoring youth through their filters and algorithms. Women over 30 can end up living two lives at once, trying to follow their own desires while pushing back against the fear of being pushed out of the normal life track. Number 11. The marriage market. Love gets priced in apartments, salary, hometown, and a baby plan. In big Chinese cities, the marriage market often shocks outsiders because it turns something private into something almost public. In Beijing, a familiar scene is sheets of paper listing details: age, height, job, income, housing status, Hukou, sometimes even a wish list for the partner. It's not a market in the crude buying and selling sense. It's more like families acting as representatives, trying to find a safe match for their children. Culturally, this comes from the idea that marriage links two families, not only two individuals. In a society that values stability, love is important, but it's not considered enough. Enough has to come with the ability to live, a home, a solid job, a predictable future for children. The more expensive the city, the stronger this logic becomes. So the criteria that feel painfully practical also become the shared language of worry. Worry that your child will struggle. Worry about financial risk. Worry about marriage failing. Locals feel conflicted about it. Older people may see it as responsibility. Let me help you with this. Younger people can feel embarrassed or even angry because they want autonomy, but some also admit something quietly. In a city where time and energy are constantly drained, pre-filtering criteria can save heartbreak. That admission is what makes the story complex. It isn't only control, it's negotiation between ideals and survival. The most unusual part is how love gets translated into risk management. Hometown isn't just hometown, it hints at a support network. An apartment isn't only property, it can mean access to better schools for future kids. A baby plan isn't only personal, it carries family expectations and continuity. When everything is placed on the table, marriage becomes a social file, and people, whether they like it or not, learn to present themselves like a high-potential profile. Number 10. Relationships as a debt ledger. Who introduces you? Who backs you? Who pulls you out of the waiting line? In Beijing, Guanxi Connections isn't just casual networking. It's a kind of social capital that can open doors, shorten time, and sometimes shape your opportunities. Outsiders often assume it's uniquely negative, but in many urban societies, networks always matter. What stands out in Beijing is the level of precision. Guanxi runs like an invisible debt ledger, where every favor becomes a remembered balance. Culturally, this ties to traditions of gratitude, reciprocity, and returning kindness. In everyday life, owing someone isn't something you leave hanging for too long. When that mindset enters the city, gratitude doesn't disappear, it changes form. An introduction to the right person, a message that gets your name in the right place, an appointment arranged through trust. Beijing locals often say, the right person, the right door, like it's basic life wisdom. Not everything can be solved with money. Many things require trust, and trust travels through networks. Locals often describe Guanxi as both useful and exhausting. Useful because it reduces uncertainty. Someone shows you the steps, confirms the details, helps untangle problems. Exhausting because it creates obligation. Once you receive help, you have to remember how to return it. And if you don't have a network, you can get stuck in the system's waiting line, booking appointments, requesting meetings, submitting paperwork, waiting for replies. The feeling of unfairness sometimes doesn't come from the law itself, but from watching someone take a shortcut with a single phone call. Number 9. Two-tier healthcare. Some people take the fast lane, others wear out in the waiting line. In Beijing, modern healthcare is very visible. Big hospitals, strong specialties, advanced equipment on paper, it looks like a powerhouse. But in daily life, many residents feel a different reality. Not everyone enters that system through the same door. The difference is speed. For some people, booking an appointment, seeing a top doctor, and getting tests done happens fairly smoothly. For others, it's a long chain of queues, rescheduled slots, and running from counter to counter with paperwork in hand. Part of the cultural backdrop is sheer scale. A huge population creates constant pressure on the best resources. The other part is mindset. Many families treat medical visits like a battle you prepare for. In urban folk wisdom, people trade hospital tips the way they trade secret recipes: what time to go, which documents to bring, which department moves faster, who to ask so you don't waste a day walking in circles. Having someone who knows the system is seen as a kind of safety net. That doesn't automatically mean anything shady is happening. It often reflects how people adapt when demand is overwhelming and high-quality care is concentrated. Locals usually talk about this with practical acceptance, mixed with fatigue. It's crowded, so of course you wait. That sentence carries both understanding and resignation. A healthy young person might tolerate the process, but when a parent gets seriously ill, the waiting starts to feel less like inconvenience and more like helplessness. That's when the idea of a shortcut becomes painfully real. The person who can book faster, the family with better information, the one with a strong network, or the person who can afford a more convenient option will experience a completely different rhythm. What makes this story stick is the urban contrast. Same city, same hospital, sometimes even the same hallway, yet two completely different experiences. Not because the illness is different, but because the ability to navigate the system is different. For travelers or outsiders, this opens up a cultural angle that's easy to miss. In Beijing, people don't only survive with money or knowledge. They also survive with system skills, knowing which door to knock on, what to say, and when to show up. Number 8. 996 doesn't need a whip. Fear of being replaced is the real chain. The idea of 9969 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, doesn't always show up as an official rule. In some Beijing industries, it's more like the air you breathe. No one has to order you to stay late, but you understand that leaving early will be noticed. The key point is that the engine isn't only the company, it's the competition inside the workers themselves. Culturally, this connects to a familiar urban storyline: enduring hardship as a path to a better life. For people who climbed up from limited means or came from smaller provinces, Beijing can feel like the ultimate opportunity city. As opportunities get tighter and success standards get higher, endurance is easily romanticized as willpower. But in real life, 996 rarely feels heroic. It feels stretched, like a long-distance run where the scariest thing is stopping. Locals often describe fear of being replaced as an invisible force pushing them forward. There's always someone new arriving, younger, cheaper, more willing to grind. That fact makes many people pressure themselves before anyone else does. They stay an extra hour to polish a deck, answer a few more messages to look responsible, take on another project to protect their position. The fear isn't getting yelled at. The fear is becoming irrelevant. In everyday urban talk, 996 produces a kind of dark humor that helps people cope. Jokes about living on coffee, sleep being a luxury, work feeling like war. That humor releases pressure, but it also normalizes a draining rhythm. Many people treat 996 as a phase you must pass, almost like a modern rite of adulthood. At the same time, more and more people are starting to ask what it costs health, family, emotional life. What's culturally striking is the kind of soft power involved. No direct force is needed. The system runs because everyone is afraid of falling behind. In that sense, Beijing becomes a social laboratory of productivity, a place where people learn to optimize themselves the way you'd optimize a production line. For travel documentary storytelling, this detail makes the city feel real beneath the glitter because it explains why so many people in Beijing look successful yet always rushed, always tired, and sometimes unable to remember what they were even running toward. And then there's the silence. Not everyone complains. Many people just say, "That's normal." That line is what makes it haunting. A sign that the standard has sunk so deep that being exhausted stops being an event and becomes the floor of everyday life. Number 7. Young people take side jobs to look okay. Not to get rich, just to stay afloat. Beijing has a very urban kind of paradox. You can have a decent job and still feel like it's not enough. Not enough to rent close to the center. Not enough to save. Not enough to live the proper life the city quietly expects. So a lot of young people pick up a second job not with a fantasy of getting rich fast, but simply to keep from sinking. The cultural layer here is about face, and the idea of a life that looks on track. In a competitive city, what you wear, where you go, what phone you use, which neighborhood you live in, these things can become social signals. Young people know those signals can affect opportunities, hiring, dating, networks. So side work isn't only about money. It's also about maintaining a surface-level stability so you don't get read as failing. Locals often talk about this with a mix of empathy and pride. Some call it hard working. Others call it being forced to be excellent. Side hustles come in many forms: tutoring, translating, delivery runs, content creation, online selling, photography, video editing. What they share is flexibility and the feeling that there's no real off switch. By day, you're an office worker. At night, you're a freelancer. On weekends, you're grinding a personal gig. Your life gets sliced into small blocks of time you can sell. In modern urban slang, this creates a new vocabulary: side hustle, working extra just to breathe, trading time for peace of mind. Many young people don't truly believe side jobs will help them buy a home. They believe it will help them pay rent, send money back home, or at least stop the panic whenever they check their bank app. That practicality is what makes it different. The dream isn't wealth. The dream is less fear. What makes the story memorable is how Beijing reshapes the meaning of normal. In Beijing, normal life can be so expensive that people have to do more work simply to stay in the same place. For travel exploration content, this is the layer behind the malls and polished streets. A generation running 2 shifts, living 2 tempos, always feeling like they're swimming. It's important to keep the tone balanced. Side work can have upsides: testing skills, expanding networks, building a path into a new career. But it's still striking because it reflects a deeper structure. When the cost of living rises alongside social expectations, extra work stops being a quirky choice and starts to feel like the entry fee to feeling okay. Number 6. Places you don't name out loud. Basement rooms and technical back corridors. Beijing has parts that never appear in tourist imagination. Basements under residential blocks, service corridors, tiny rooms beside parking areas, back passages behind bright lobbies. These spaces aren't always secret in the dramatic sense, but they're often unnamed in the official story of the city. People walk past without looking, or they look and pretend they didn't. The background here is rapid urban growth and the gap between housing prices and incomes. As the center gets expensive, living space gets pushed into the cracks of architecture. Areas meant for building systems, storage, or infrastructure get turned into temporary housing. People don't choose them because they love them. They choose them because they're close to work, cut commuting costs, and make survival possible. Locals tend to have complicated feelings about these spaces. Some shrug and say, every city has a backside. Others worry about safety fire risks, ventilation, hygiene. But many also understand that this is a form of adaptation by working-class residents. Drivers, delivery riders, kitchen helpers, construction workers, the people who keep the city functioning. In everyday talk, they're sometimes mentioned quickly, almost as background, the people down in the basement, someone renting a tiny room. That speed is part of what makes the topic linger. It shows how real communities can exist while rarely being fully seen. Culturally, these unnamed spaces develop their own way of life. People share kitchens, share showers, trade job information, recommend rooms to friends. In cramped conditions, survival rules form naturally. Don't pry into private life, keep noise low, help when necessary, but don't get too involved. It becomes a quiet kind of community, built more from need than from ideals. What makes it memorable is the contrast. Above a cramped room might be a luxury apartment. Behind a bright entrance could be a dark service corridor. Beijing can feel like a multi-level stage. The front is national symbolism, the back is the labor ecosystem. For country profile storytelling, this is powerful material. It shows that the capital isn't only made of policy and prestige, but also of human lives finding footholds in the city's gaps. The key is to keep the exploration tone, not turn it into pure tragedy. These spaces are memorable not because they're simply dark, but because they speak to human resilience. When people can't find an official place to stand, they create one by fitting themselves into the city's leftover spaces. Number 5. Housing sliced into sleep boxes. Privacy becomes a luxury. One unforgettable Beijing feeling is that housing isn't just shelter, it's a calculation. As rent and prices rise, many apartments get divided into multiple small rooms with thin partitions. Each room fits a bed, a desk, a closet. It feels more like a sleep box than a home. The shock isn't only the tight space. It's the way privacy, something that should feel basic, turns into a privilege. This is tied to fast urbanization and the constant flow of people into the capital. Beijing is an opportunity magnet, so demand for rooms stays intense. When the market responds, the quickest way to raise profit is to split space. That creates a social architecture. One apartment becomes home to several strangers, each carrying a separate life, forced to live shoulder to shoulder inside a temporary system. Locals often view this with a practical, almost cold realism. Many young people treat it as a phase. Accept the squeeze to stay close to the center, save commuting time, keep career momentum. When they talk about it, they don't always emphasize hardship. They emphasize what they gain. At least I don't waste 2 hours on the road every day. It reveals a very urban value. Time gets converted into space. You buy time by sacrificing comfort. In daily life, these divided apartments produce scenes that are both funny and exhausting. You time your showers, time your cooking, lower your voice so you don't spill into someone else's life. Some people become minimalist, not from philosophy, but because there's nowhere to put things. Others develop a different kind of privacy. Privacy inside headphones, inside a phone screen, inside silence. When walls aren't thick enough, people build psychological walls. Number 4. The gray market of getting things done. There's always someone who can handle it if you pay and know the right people. Beijing is a city where systems and procedures can feel thick and heavy. When systems get heavy, middle services grow. That's the gray market, not fully legal or illegal in a simple black and white way, but living in the in-between. People turn to it to save time, avoid mistakes, or just spare themselves the exhaustion. In daily conversation, you'll hear a phrase that hints at an entire parallel world. Someone can handle it. Culturally, this connects to the value of knowing the proper steps. In a big city, understanding procedure becomes a kind of capital. But not everyone has time or energy to learn every process. So intermediaries appear: someone to prepare documents, someone to book appointments, someone to find information, someone to advise the smoothest route. Many of these services are simply professionalized admin help. The boundary becomes sensitive when services depend too much on relationships or special priority. Locals tend to view this with blunt practicality. They don't always label it good or bad. They call it how things work. Some people dislike it because it feels unfair. Those with money and connections move faster. Others see it as inevitable optimization in modern society. When everyone is busy, people are willing to pay for relief. In urban folk culture, the gray market also creates a careful communication style. People don't openly brag about having a way because it can trigger resentment or trouble. Instead, you hear indirect language: "I know someone, let me ask around, this can be done." That wording reflects a social ethic. People want convenience, but also safety, and they want to keep their image clean. Number 3. Going invisible to survive. Migrants learn to shrink themselves as a life skill. Beijing pulls people from everywhere: students, factory workers, office staff, service workers. But the bigger it gets, the more layered it feels. Many migrants learn an unwritten lesson. If you want a quiet life, sometimes you have to go invisible. Not disappearing completely, but lowering your profile: less attention, fewer arguments, fewer demands, fewer collisions. The cultural background includes a strong sense of order and proper behavior in public space. Beijing moves fast and can be blunt. For newcomers, that bluntness can be a shock. They adapt by watching carefully. Speak just enough, don't be loud, work hard, avoid trouble. Over time, shrinking yourself becomes reflex. Locals see migrants in mixed ways. There's respect: migrants do heavy, necessary work, but there's also distance, because migrants often aren't part of the same family, school, neighborhood web that natives grow up with. That distance isn't always direct discrimination. Sometimes it's simply a lack of shared ground. And when there's no shared ground, the safest option is to stay close to the wall. Walk lightly, talk less. In daily life, invisibility shows up in small choices: working night shifts, avoiding rush hour, eating quickly at cheaper places, skipping group activities, not complaining publicly. Some people say they get used to the feeling that they don't have the right to be inconvenient. They send money home, save every bit they can, treat the city as a work site rather than a full home. That mindset creates a split life. Your body is here, but your heart stays somewhere else. What's culturally striking is that this becomes a kind of modern life faith, believing that staying low profile keeps you safer. Not spiritual faith, more like a survival belief. In a huge urban system, it can be true. Fewer collisions mean fewer problems. But it also leaves an aftertaste. When you shrink yourself for too long, you forget you ever had a voice. Number 2. One fall and you lose everything. Serious illness, unemployment, accidents can drag a whole family down. In Beijing, many lives rest on a fragile balance. Things can feel fine when the job is steady, health is okay, and nothing unexpected happens. But one fall, serious illness, an accident, unemployment can flip an entire household overnight. The shock isn't that risks exist, it's the speed and depth of the slide, from stable to crisis in a matter of weeks. Culturally, this ties to family obligation and support networks. In many Asian societies, family absorbs risk. But in big cities, families are scattered: older parents in the hometown, children in Beijing, relatives far away. When trouble hits, the weight lands on the people already living in the city where costs are high and time is short. They may have to cover medical bills, keep paying rent, and protect a job they can't afford to lose all at once. Locals rarely tell this story in dramatic language. They say it in short sentences: don't get sick, don't quit your job. It sounds like a joke, but it's really a survival philosophy. Some families prioritize saving and insurance, yet saving in Beijing isn't easy. When the cushion is thin, a crisis becomes a lever that can pull the whole household downward. In modern urban folk thinking, this creates a cautious way of living. People hesitate to take risks, hesitate to switch careers, hesitate to take long breaks. That caution makes the city feel both stable and suffocating. You see many people living by routine, not because they lack dreams, but because they fear failing without a safety net. Number 1. Living in Beijing like a temporary guest. After 10 years, you still hesitate to call it home. The deepest Beijing shock isn't always exhaustion, cramped rooms, or paperwork. Sometimes it's the feeling of not belonging. You can live here for 10 years, have friends, have your go-to places, know your subway line by heart, hold a stable job, and still hesitate to call Beijing home. Many people say, it's where I work, it's where I'm staying, it's where I'm trying. That hesitation is a powerful cultural signal. The background is structural: Hukou, housing costs, and the city's constant pace of change. As the capital, Beijing offers huge opportunities but also intense competition. Many people arrive with a life project: study, work, build savings, climb. When life turns into a project, home becomes something you have to earn, not something you naturally have. And if you haven't earned it, you don't dare to name it. Locals sometimes don't notice this feeling because for them Beijing is the default ground: schools, relatives, childhood memories. For migrants, those roots are somewhere else: another province, another house, another rhythm of life. So they live with two layers: their body here, their mind holding a door open for one day going back, one day moving to another city, one day buying a place, then it will be home. That one day can stretch into years. In everyday modern life, the temporary feeling shows up in small habits. People avoid buying big furniture because I might move. They don't decorate because it's just a rental. They hesitate to attach too deeply because this city isn't certain. Stability gets built out of portable things: a suitcase, apps, work schedules, scattered networks. That portability creates a specific urban loneliness. You can have many connections, but very little root. Looking back at these 15 stories, you can see Beijing is not just a city to admire. It is a system people negotiate with every single day just to keep going. If you want more episodes like this, hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next video. And if you want me to cover another city in the same format, comment the name below.